Hey guys, and welcome to Thelearningdroid. Today we're going to be doing a bit of burning on the Orchard Barn project using the Peter Child's Pyrography machine. I've got two pens set up. I've got one set up with a fine detail point and one set up with a heavy detail point. I've also got my spare points if I need to switch any of them later. I've got my jar for putting hot bits in. I've got a brass and steel wire brush for cleaning any contact points that get clogged up, spare bit of wood for burning, pliers for holding hot things. I've got the machine. I've got I've got a screwdriver for loosening contact points. I've got a drink. Tasty. And I've got my fan, which is going to be acting as my fume shield. Once again, you don't point the fan at the bit of work. You point the fan slightly at your face, slightly below your face. So, just like those curtains of hot air you get in shops where they're keeping the cold air out by having a curtain of hot air blown down over the door, we're going to have a wall of air travelling between me and the bit that I'm working on so that I don't get any fumes in my face. It's a very nice way of doing it. Got a nice open window. You can also have extractor fans pulling the smoke away, or you can use a vapour shield. So this is the piece. It's going to be a rustic style outside piece, so we're not going to be too worried about getting everything, all the details perfect. It's quite resinous wood, so we do need the fan. I'm sorry if the fan is a bit noisy, guys. And finally, it's quite a sort of soft wood, so we're going to have to go with quite low temperature burn. So we're going to start with our fine detail point rather than our super heavy detail point. We'll get to that when we're doing other things. Turn the machine all the way down to 0 when you turn it on. Turn it on and then slowly turn it up. I'm going to put mine at about 1.5 to start with. Tuck the wire somewhere safe. In my case, I tend to tuck the wire under my elbow and have my elbow resting on the surface that I'm working on. That way the wire is always kept behind my arm, which means that it's never going to touch the pyrography tip, it's never going to get burnt, and it's not going to get in my way. So we test the burn of the wood, and because this is an outdoor piece I want to burn it quite dark, so I'm actually going to turn it up a little bit. Turn it up to about 2. This is a basswood tester piece. It's best if you have a tester piece actually of the same wood, but in this case basswood and this wood are reasonably close. And then we're just going to get straight on into it. So from here, guys, we're going to pick where we start. I think I'm going to start on the edge of this bit here. Get a nice straight line. And with pyrography things, guys, don't think that you rotate to get the different lines. The bit of wood you're burning should be the thing that rotates to get different lines, different angles. So I turn it, and that gives me the angle to do this bit. Now this is quite interesting, guys, because it's quite a soft and also quite a grainy bit of wood. It's got these very thick grain bands on it, and they burn differently. Turn my fan on. Remember to turn the fan on so that I don't get too much smoke in the face. They burn differently. That's a little bit too low. So that there was pointing at actually at the tip of the machine, causing it to cool down. And we don't want that. Beautiful. What you do, guys, is you rotate the piece that you're working on to get the different angles, the different burns. Now I'm going to have to change the speed I burn at as I go from soft wood, which is the light coloured wood, the softer sort of soft growth wood, to the harder wood of the darker grain. I'm going to have to change the speed at which I move, which is quite challenging. I've not done much of this before. So as you can see, guys, it's going to be quite time consuming. My camera is actually quite low on battery, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see all of this, but I'm pretty sure you're getting bored of it by now anyway. So that's the corner. And it is just like this, guys. You take it nice and slow, nice and steady. I'm going to up the temperature a little bit so that it's burning a little bit quicker. And while the fan can be quite annoying because it is meaning I need a higher temperature machine, my machine's set higher, it's also protecting me from any fumes from this resinous wood. And resin wood, very resinous wood, is far worse than the really well dried, not resinous woods. Really well dried, I don't really know what the term is for a non-resinous wood, but it's far better to have some kind of protection. Even when you're burning a non-resinous wood, it's better to have some kind of protection so that you're not hurting yourself, so that you're not inhaling any smoke. Once again, because this is supposed to be quite rustic looking, guys, it's an outdoor piece, it's supposed to be seen from quite far away. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give it the look of one of those old rustic signs. So I'm going to be using a wood rasp on the outside of it. Once it's cut to shape, it's going to be put together with carriage bolts or something similar, carriage bolts or big brass nails, big heavy brass nails. So it's a very much a sort of rustic looking signpost. So a little bit of unevenness doesn't matter. I am a learner, and learners need to make mistakes. That's how a learner learns. And you'll see, guys, because I'm burning quite deep because it's supposed to be an outdoor piece, there's a lot of smoke being generated. And I can see the smoke being generated, I can see it billowing up. So I'm very lucky to have the fan here, because it means the smoke's not getting into my mouth, it's not burning my nose, it's not making it unpleasant to work. I can still smell it, sort of. I mean, I get the odd whiff every now and then. Not much though. And that's the thing. We're not looking to turn ourselves into crazy I cannot let the smoke touch me people. Doing this sort of thing, you are going to get smoke. But what we are doing is we're taking precautions. If I had a vapor mask available right now, I'd be wearing a vapor mask. And my voice would sound a little bit like this. Now, I'd do a post-production commentation probably if I was wearing a vapor mask, because it's not very nice to listen to someone who you can't hear. But on that note, I hope the fan isn't too loud. If the fan is too loud, guys, then what I'll do is I'll set it up further away and possibly put a bit of sound foam in the direct line between the fan and the camera to try and keep it from interfering. But it's all experimentation for me, both pyrography and YouTube videos. I'm not very good at either yet, but I'm getting there slowly. As I said in a previous video, I think, nice messages, nasty messages, likes, favourites, subscriptions, all these things help give me information about what you guys like to see. If you have any suggestions or any advice, if you are a successful YouTuber and you want to tell all your fans on YouTube about how awesome I am, feel free. To quote another famous YouTuber who I have no affiliation with, advertise like a shameless whore. And that's what I'm doing right now. I am advertising like a shameless whore. I apologise if you didn't like the language there, guys. Not trying to be disrespectful or anything like that. Just being a little cheeky. So, as you can see, this is going to be quite a time-consuming project. It's probably going to rack up quite a few hours. I'll probably speed up quite a bit of it. So for those of you who think, oh god, it's going to be so slow, I'm going to speed up chunks of it so it's not nearly as slow. It's best if you can keep your work area reasonably tidy, as I am failing miserably to do. That bit's a bit awkward. Well guys, that was the video telling me that, the video camera telling me that it's running out of batteries. So what we'll do is we'll call it there and we'll come back a little bit later once I've done a bit more. Thanks guys! Hey guys! So, this is part one of the Orchard Barn project complete, or part one of several. As you can see, line art for this section, which is the barn. We've got line art for the raccoon stealing apples, and then we've got the Orchard Barn lettering. The lettering's done with the heavy detail point and done in a point list style, so in dot style, and the dot style with the fine detail points done the metal of the roof cap and done the metal for the bands around the apple bucket. So we've got a pretty standardised theme. We've got the dots for the metal in the art, then we've got the lines for the wood. It works rather well. I think it looked quite cute myself. Get a little bit more light on it. Let's have a look, see how that works. So there we go guys, we've got that section all the way to that section. Now what I've done is I've cut the arrow point, so this is going to be like an old style sign, and what I've done is I wanted it to look quite rustic, so instead of taking a router and doing the edges or planing the edges with a plane so that they're nice and flat or anything like that, what I've done is I've taken a rotary hobby tool and I've just run it along the edges with a rotary sanding disc on it. Just a little, I think it's a 80 grit sanding disc, or sanding tube. I'll show you it now. We've got this little sanding disc there, and it just spins up and sands off, and basically I've done it by hand, holding both the piece and sanding tool at the same time, just to give it a kind of like a roughed up look. Could have got the same sort of effect with a hand, with a bit of sanding paper on in my hand, just rubbing it off across the edges. So I could have just rubbed the edges with a bit of sanding paper, but I wanted to give it the slightly sort of dipped roundedness that the drum sanding piece gives, just because then it looks like someone's dropped it, someone's thrown it about the garden a little bit, and it just gives it a little bit more of a worn-in look. And then what I'm going to do to finish it off is, I'm not sure, I'm either going to oil it or varnish it. I prefer to oil it with like a medium dark oil, depending on how pyrography would stand out. I've got a test piece to check, see how the pyrography stands out on different types of oil and varnish using this wood. And that's quite literally just a little piece of wood with test written on it in pyrography. I have no idea where I've put it, so I can see it. So we've literally just got a little test bit of wood with a few pyrography marks that I'm just going to use oil and stain on. Oil, stain, varnish, just to see what gives it a nice look without completely overpowering the pyrography. So the next section we're going to look at, guys, is the other sign, which points in the opposite direction and says South Barn. And I'll do a couple of videos for that, and then we'll put the whole thing together, and we'll have a nice little garden sign for sticking either in the ground, or in this case, it's going to go in a flower pot. outside the front door. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you again later.